What's going down, everybody? It is Monday, May 19th. Let me that a little bit. May 19th, 2014. It is another edition of your weekly recap in the world of video gaming. This is another edition of Plugged In. I know that I've taken a while to get this video recorded and uploaded for you guys, and I've had to push back a couple days, but draft was last weekend. It was pretty crazy. The weekend before that, then we had the Indy qualifying this past weekend. This month of May has been nuts. It's gone by fast. This year seems to be going by fast. Pretty soon before you know it, we do in the stock report. I'm pretty sure of it. So it has been crazy, but for now, today, another plugged-in video. I'm planning on doing tomorrow a video where I break down the 32 NFL teams. Also, as well, hoping to recap what they did through the draft, through free agency, all that stuff before the season starts as well. Of course, we had the draft recently, so now they're starting the OTA mini camps. So a lot to talk about there in that video. But for now, we're going to break down another week in video games. Really, there weren't a whole lot of debuts this past week. There were a couple on the PlayStation side, and maybe that's why, again, this week that the PS4 this week actually barely outsold Xbox One. So it's not going down without a fight. It's definitely now hardware as a whole. Here's how we'll talk. We'll start with hardware first. We're going to talk about hardware and how its sales are showing up. Then we'll break down the weekly chart, and then we'll look again at the overall for the year. Also, I just got a refresh on release dates, and I tell you what, again, this next week's going to be huge. The rest of this month of May is going to be huge. Also, of course, E3's next month, and the month of October is going to be a very big month when it comes to gaming as well. But let's talk first about the hardware numbers for this. This is the week ending of May 10th. So again, as VG charts is always a week behind usually where we're at right now. But let's just talk about the hardware. PS4 barely outsells Xbox One this week, and lately the trend had been that Xbox One had been outselling the PS4 and actually catching up to it in some respects. And I thought that this week for sure it would be, and maybe in the weeks to come it's going to happen based on the big announcement. I don't know if you guys have heard, the Xbox One is going to release a version without the Kinect sensor. And for all the criticism that have been about the Kinect sensor over the years, how it doesn't recognize every single motion and how frustrating that is, this is a huge deal. And it's going to retail at $399, which is the same price as the PS4. So this definitely makes the console war between the two all the more interesting. It will be intriguing to see what happens as a result of this announcement. I think Microsoft really at this point is pulling out all the stops. They're trying to do whatever they can to catch up. And I also read on GameSpot, I also read an article saying, why is Microsoft so behind? Why is the Xbox One so behind in sales on the PS4? And they claim that it's being sold in less markets in the PS4, which that could be a big reason why, again, that marketability. It could be a big reason why as well. And the fact that people are just still so attached to the Xbox 360 that they don't want to go to the next level and get the Xbox One. The Xbox 360 was clearly far and away better than the PS3 in all that it did, and Sony knew that. So when Sony put out the PS4 and basically crushed Xbox One at E3, everyone immediately went and bought PS4s. So that, I think, is why there's the big discrepancy now between the two. So Microsoft now is trying to get the playing field back level again, because with 360 to PS3, it was here to here. Then Microsoft makes the big oop-de-doo decision of all this restriction, drops, and then Sony with PS4 whoop and says we're not going to do that, went up through the roof. Then they reversed the policies, and then it kind of got even, and now we're about to maybe here, where it's just barely above. But now Microsoft's going to try to either level it or tip the scales kind of in their direction with this new announcement. So it will be interesting to see what comes out of this. But PS4 this week ending May 10th outsold Xbox One by only about 700 units. So really, that's not too much. As a whole, hardware dropped by 7%. The biggest drop was, no shocker, was the Vita, 13% down from the previous week. Again, the Vita has been a major disappointment, although the Vita looks like they are going to release a lot more games in the future. They just released Borderlands 2 for the Vita this week, which I'm going to say had a nice debut to it. So that could be a good step in the right direction. Actually, the only hardware, interesting to note, the only hardware that had an increase in percentage this week was the PS3, up 2%. So Xbox One plummeted 11% in sales this week. PS4 only plummeted 6%. Interesting to note. So as a total now, at least in between the two consoles, PS4 still leads Xbox One by about almost 300,000 units. So it's still a tight race, but still PS4 ahead, and globally they're still ahead by about 3 million units. So again, that talks about that market difference. That maybe shows why there's such a big increase or difference between the two. 3DS sold another 25,000 units this week. That was only a 6% drop from the previous week. 360, another 13,000 units. That was only down 5%. The Wii U did sell another 10,000 units this week, only down 2%. So really they're not plummeting too much, but at least in the United States, they're only barely over about 2 million units, about 2.4 million units. So again, that shows you the disappointment of that. But again, I think the big increases, obviously, I think should come when Mario Kart 8 comes out on May 30th. I think that's going to lead to, at least it should lead to, an increase in Wii U sales. Because if you really think about it, I think this is what the Wii U's banking on, is this game, is Mario Kart 8, because it's only a Wii U title. It is not on any other platform. It's not for the old Wii. It's not for anything else. Not for 3DS. Nothing. It is only for the Wii U. So they are banking on this title to be the Wii U's driving point. So if sales don't increase with this game, I don't know what will for the Wii U. That's really what I can say right now, because there's so many good features that I've seen in Mario Kart 8 that are going to make it impressive and make it like it should be a driving force for the Wii U. So I'm interested to see what happens with that as well. Otherwise, like I said, PS3 was the only one that increased, up 2% from the previous week. The old Wii's went down 8%, but again, not many stores carry really the old Wii's anymore. And I mentioned the Vita's down 13%. So let's talk about the numbers now for this week. The two debuts did the best, and really that's really no surprise, considering usually the debuts tend to do well because they're new titles. MLB 14, the show, just released for PS4 this week, ending May 10th. It had already been out now for a few weeks for PS3 and the Vita, but now they finally put out for PS4, and it made me wonder why they released it so late for PS4. But I guess they really had to fine tune it for the new console. But it did very well, over 130,000 units, 134,000 plus copies in its first week. Now, the PS3 version fell just outside the top 30 in its sixth week. But even with that PS4 title alone, that still puts it in a very solid position for the year. In that first week, so it's still doing strong. It's still doing very, very well. And what more can you say? Again, it's got the market right now in terms of baseball because it's the only really big title out right now. Now, I mentioned Borderlands 2, and I mentioned that it came out for the Vita. Now, obviously, Borderlands 2 has been a game that's been out for a long, long, long time. We haven't seen a new Borderlands in a long time. But now it releases for the Vita this week, and Borderlands 2 still continues to sell well. Don't get me wrong. But now Vita puts it out, and in its first week, and this is a Vita title only, 42,379 copies. That's very impressive just for a Vita title by itself. The only other Vita really exclusive that we've seen, just for the Vita this year was the Tukiden game back in February, and it flopped completely. It didn't really have big sales numbers. So for Borderlands 2 to do this well in its first week is huge. and maybe it's going to become a selling point for the Vita a little bit. We'll see what happens as a result. But if you think about it, that first week performance from Borderlands 2, it crushed what the FIFA game did in its peak point. It crushed, Trials Fusion. It crushed Mario Golf for 3DS. It still hasn't got to that point yet. So it just goes to show what a game on its own, Borderlands 2, is. And no matter what platform it is on, it is strong across the board. So we'll see what happens, if it can be, whether or not it can become a sticking point for Vita sales as well. Minecraft. We need to talk about Minecraft because Minecraft for 360 obviously is still selling well. It's almost out now, almost 50 weeks, and is nearing the 2.5 million mark for the Xbox 360, which will probably leapfrog next week. But the PS3 version just got released last Friday, May 16th. So when the new chart drops for the week ending of May 17th, then we'll see how well that PS3 Minecraft version does in its first week. I think that version is going to do just as well as the 360 version because, I mean, usually the trend was when a new title was released for both the Xbox 360 and the PS3, whether they released at the same time or whether they released in different times, the 360 version almost always, and I say almost because there are some exceptions with some games like Call of Duty Ghosts or Battlefield or your big titles, but when it comes to a game like Minecraft, Minecraft is universal. It started as a PC game, and now it's expanding to the consoles. The 360, now the PS3. Later in the year, we'll see Xbox One. I'm pretty sure at some point, I don't know if they've announced this or not, we will probably see at some point for PS4. But Minecraft now is going to come out, is now without this PS3 version. And if the Xbox 360 version can hit 2.5 million in 50 weeks, imagine what the PS3 version is going to do. I'm interested to see what it does right out of the box. It's probably going to be the top game of the week. The week ending May 17th. It's probably going to be the top game. I'd be shocked if it wasn't. Because it's the biggest game that released that week. So I think it's going to be there. I think it's going to, who knows what's the number's going to be. Maybe 200,000, 300,000 sales, maybe even more. It is going to be, it's just going to be, what more can I say except outstanding. I mean, it's going to be, again, one of the big titles of the year. It was big last year when it debuted. It's going to be another big title this year. So Minecraft's got a good hold on things right now. Kirby Triple Deluxe is still doing well for the 3DS. I mentioned last week that it would not surprise me if it was on pace to already go over 100,000 copies after its amazing first week debut. Well, it came pretty darn close. This week, another 32,800 copies for Kirby Triple Deluxe, putting it now at 88,474 copies over 2 weeks. So now it's on pace for about 44,000 copies a week. That's still pretty good. It has leapfrogged, which I expected it to. It leapfrogged Final Fantasy XIV. It leapfrogged Lego Hobbit, and I called it. I expected it would. It leapfrogged the peak sales of Kinect Sports Rivals. This Kirby game is shaping up to be one of the best 3DS titles of the year. I think, if it can catch Yoshi's New Island, then it's an accomplishment. I mean, obviously, it's selling amazingly well, but it might even it's on pace to catch Yoshi's New Island in a matter of 4 weeks. And Yoshi's New Island is only 166,000 copies in 9. I mean, it is on a tear. Kirby clearly is a seller in any market that it's in because it's such a big title character. And this was the first Kirby game in a long time. And when you have a period where there's a game for a long time, people are itching. It's like, when's that new Kirby game? Where's that new Kirby game? And now they get their hands on it. It's like, I want to play, I want to play, I want to play, I want to play. I mean, they get their hands on it. They are so excited. And I think that's what's happened here. So in the span of just 2 weeks, Kirby is almost 100,000 copies. Well done to the Kirby franchise and Kirby Triple Deluxe. It's on pace. It's on pace to catch or even overtake Yoshi's New Island, and I never thought I would be saying that at the start of the year. Titanfall, again, still doing outstandingly well. The Xbox One, almost 32,000 copies itself. The 360 version, another 19,000 copies. So now Titanfall is, I mean, it's slowing down in terms of how incremental it's going. It's still barely above the 1.5 million mark. So at this point, it's kind of like maybe reaching that stagnant pace where it's not flying off the shelves as much, but it's still selling. So I thought easily Titanfall would hit 2 million in 10 weeks. It's been out now total for 9 weeks. The one version has been out for 9 weeks, the 360 version for 5 weeks. I thought for sure at 10 weeks it would be over 2 million. Now, I'm not so sure. I think it will get to 2 million eventually, but it's going to be very, very close if it does. But certainly it doesn't put any damper on the fact that it is and will be probably at the end of this calendar year one of the best games of 2014. Just based on sales alone, based on hype, based on sales, based on gameplay, and just everything in general, it's going to be one of the best out there. So again, that now, will it get to? I think it certainly will get to 2 million by the time that the 360 version reaches 10 weeks, but I don't think it's going to on the Xbox One version. When the Xbox One version hits its 10-week mark next week. And then after that, you've got Ghost for 360 was 7th this week. Again, it's still selling very well. Amazing Spider-Man 2. Interesting to know, a movie licensed game. And again, we drill on here that movie licensed games usually do not tend to do very well. And for the most part, again, this year it's been the case, again, with the exception of the Lego Movie game, which sold amazingly well. We might now have to make an exception for Amazing Spider-Man 2, because in 2 weeks, it has even outsold Kirby Triple Deluxe. But you got to remember, this is also a game that's on 4 different platforms, at least. It's 360. It is now over 100,000 copies in just 2 weeks. 109,256 copies in 2 weeks.
That is amazing. That again, that's 50,000, about 50,000 copies plus a week. At that pace, in 4 weeks, it will leapfrog the likes of Yoshi's New Island, Plants vs. Zombies, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. It'll be right up there with Bravely Default. So so in 10 weeks, could it catch Lego Movie or overtake it? Possibly, as the best movie license game of the year. But that's going to be a tall order. But, the movie's doing well. So in this case, I guess the game does well. I guess that's an interesting correlation, is it not? If a movie does well in theaters, then the video game will tend to do very well. Lego Movie did awesome in theaters. Lego Movie game sold awesomely well. Amazing Spider-Man 2 doing well, so the game is selling well. So again, there's that correlation. You've got to have a good movie, I guess, to have a good game. Or you have to have a good game based, at least close to the movie as possible, and that makes a good game. But you also have to have good gameplay. So this is a nice thing to see. At the pace that it's on, it might even quickly leapfrog MLB 14 The Show as soon as next week. I would not be surprised to see that happen. If it leapfrogs Yoshi, that's a big step as well, on a much quicker pace. Then after that, you've got Pokemon X and Y. That's still selling very well, another 13,000 copies. The next step in the Pokemon franchise, they're remaking Ruby and Sapphire. I don't know if you guys heard that announcement. That'll be coming out probably sometime later this year in November. The Alpha Ruby and Omega Sapphire editions, or maybe it's Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But definitely it'll be interesting to see how that pans out as well, and how that gameplay is going to look once it comes out. Then you've got GTA 5, again, still selling well. Another 23,000 copies across the 2 platforms this week. Still over 12.8 million in sales. Battlefield 4. Now, 13th this week is Mario Golf World Tour. If Kirby's been the success, Mario Golf has been a surprising disappointment. It only sold another 9,000 copies this week. That only puts it at 36,566 copies.
I thought for sure that ending this week it would leapfrog Castlevania, Lords of Shadow 2, and FIFA. It didn't. This is shaping up to be a complete disappointment. I mean, I don't know any other way. And it released the same time as Kirby. Maybe that's the issue here. I don't know. I'm surprised to see this big a discrepancy between the two titles releasing at the same time. But that's the thing. It leaves consumers then with a choice. If they can't afford both titles at like what, $39.96, they have to make a choice. And maybe most of the time the kids are saying, "Oh, I'm tired of Mario. I want to try something different. I want to go to Kirby." So maybe that's the way they're looking here. Maybe that's why there is such this big gap. Maybe it wasn't smart of the people behind the Mario Golf game to release at the same time as Kirby Triple Deluxe because of the fact that one of them is going to be the loser in all of this. And clearly right now, based on again on the debut numbers alone, it looks like Mario Golf World Tour is going to be the big loser from this. If they can't even leapfrog underwhelming titles like Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2 and FIFA World Cup in a span of 2 weeks, that's saying something. So, and getting beat by 6,000 copies by a debut title of an old game on the PlayStation Vita. I mean, that is saying something. So, I don't know what the future holds for Mario Golf World Tour. I can say it doesn't look to be very bright at this point. If it can hit 50,000 copies in 4 weeks, that'll put it on the same pace as Final Fantasy XIV for PS4, which I guess, if anything, is saying something. If it can hit that plateau, I see that as an accomplishment. If it doesn't, it goes down as a major, major 3DS disappointment and maybe even a release time mistake, which we have sometimes seen way too often. After that, Amazing Spider-Man 2 for 360, another 8,900 copies. Ghost for PS4, over the 1 million mark. Forza 5 is 16th, another 8,500 copies this week as well. Ghost for PS3. Interesting to see that new Super Luigi U is also in the top 30 this week. 18th, another 8,400 copies. Sold 830,000 plus copies in 37 weeks. So at least some titles for the Wii U are driving sales and doing well. But I think time it'll be telling how well Mario Kart 8 does to push the console. Infamous Second Son still doing well for the PS4. It's 19th this week, another 8,300 copies sold. That puts it at 27,000 plus in an 8-week span. Don't think it's going to hit 1 million copies in 10 weeks, but certainly, again, right now, it's put it in a very good position for the year. It's right now the second highest selling game of 2014, and it's a PS4 exclusive. So again, that really, again, is in and of itself. So ahead of some multi-platform titles that we were expecting to do very well. So definitely very good there for the Infamous folks. Speaking again of Wii U titles that have done well, New Super Mario Bros. U is 20th this week. Other notables, again, the big titles, Ghost for Xbox One, 21st, Battlefield 4 for PS3, 22nd. Amazing Spider-Man 2, Xbox One comes in at 23rd. Yoshi's New Island, I briefly mentioned about Yoshi's New Island, 24th this week, almost about 7,000 copies. It's now at 166,674, so it's not quite. I expected it this would be the week that it would leapfrog the peak of Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare. I mentioned that last week. I thought that would happen. Hasn't yet. If it doesn't happen in its 10th week, that to me would be surprising. Because again, I mentioned I keep selling 3DS XLs of the Yoshi edition. I keep selling it, so I'm thinking people are going to get the game with it, and really sometimes that doesn't happen. So, again, I think though that if it stays on the pace that it's on, next week will be the week that Yoshi's New Island leapfrogs Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare. Unfortunately, though, I don't think Yoshi is going to catch Bravely Default. At this point, I cannot see that happening. I think Bravely Default just did so well from the gate when it was released back in February that it just got a hold on the market and really the numbers just kept staggeringly rising every single week. So I don't think Yoshi's going to catch Bravely Default in the long run. It might come close, but I don't see it catching the peak number. And really after that, no really other notables. Super Mario 3D World is another one that's done well for Wii U. It's about over 800,000 copies now in total as well. So, what does this say looking forward? Basically, we've talked about a lot here. Um, the titles now for these next few weeks are going to be huge. We might see some shift at the top. Where obviously those PS3 Minecraft numbers. What are they going to be like after its first week? What are we going to see from it? And what's going to be the final number for for the Minecraft franchise? Combining the two together, what's it going to be over? Is it going to be over 3 million, 4 million? What's it going to top out at? Interesting to see with that. Next week, starting tomorrow, releasing some big titles. Drakengard 3 for PS3 is expected to be released tomorrow. Don't know if all the stores will get it, but that's on the list. The big one that's going to come out tomorrow is Wolfenstein New Order. You probably guys have seen advertisements on TV for this one. This one has gotten a lot of major hype. It'll be interesting to see how it does across all its platforms. Also, another game that has been advertised, at least in my store on our display, is Transistor for PS4. That's supposed to come out tomorrow. So a lot of titles coming out tomorrow, and then the week following that, another game that was shown off at E3 and got so much hype and excitement. May 27th, Watch Dogs finally comes out. This game, when I saw it at E3, I was just like, whoa, that's cool. When you have a game that takes an element of everything now is it makes you think about our world today also a little bit, where everything's open and then someone can just hit buttons and hack into anything that and know everything about you and everywhere you're at and what you can do. It's scary stuff, but at the same time, it makes for a pretty darn good game. And I'm excited to see how that game does after its release. And then, of course, Mario Kart 8 for May 30th. Not only how is it going to sell? Probably expected to sell very well. But what is it going to do for the Wii U sales? That is going to be the big thing to watch in the coming weeks. In the month of June, we've got Murdered Soul Suspect multi-platform game coming out. Tomodachi Life for 3DS. The scandal with the same-sex stuff. How is that going to impact sales for that game? Is it still going? What is that going to do in terms of maybe even for the console? How is that going to affect it? We've got Enemy Front for PS3 and 360 coming out in June. EA Sports UFC is coming out for the new consoles. That game's got a lot of hype. A new Transformers game is coming out in late June. Of course, the fourth movie's coming out soon. Rise of the Age of Extinction movie. The game's called Rise of the Dark Spark. What's it gonna be able to put out? A racing game, not Drive Club, but Grid Autosport for PS3 and 360 is coming out in late June. Not really a whole lot in July, but then August, Ultra Street Fighter 4, Risen 3, a new edition of Diablo 3, the Ultimate Evil Edition. Madden 15 is, of course, in August. Sacred 3, Evil Within. Then you've got September. Of course, Destiny is coming out in September. NHL 15. Then here's the big month. The early couple weeks of October. These are going to be huge. Alien Isolation. October 7th. Circle on your calendars October 7th because this is going to be a big date. October 7th. Alien Isolation. Dragon Age Inquisition. At the moment, Drive Club for PS4, which I've been wanting to come out for so long because I love my racing titles. I love playing racing games. I've even had a chance, to test out Forza 5 on the Xbox One, and it's an adrenaline rush. Drive Club for PS4 is tentatively slated for October 7th. And I say tentatively because it was supposed to be released at the PS4's launch last year. Didn't happen. The new Middle Earth game, October 7th, and NBA 2K15 is slated for an October 7th release. That's going to be huge. But if you think that's huge, look a week later on October 14th. Batman Arkham Knight, the new one for the new consoles. Raven's Cry for PS3 and 360. And then in November, the new Call of Duty, Advanced Warfare, and Far Cry 4. That's just what we know right now. There's still a ton of titles out there that they're expecting to be released either this year or next. We don't know when their release dates are going to be yet. So I'm going to keep checking at least on a monthly basis to get as many updated dates as I can for you guys to let you guys know what's coming out. But clearly, and of course, we've got E3 next month. We're going to show all this stuff off. So might even know dates and titles by next month because we got E3 coming up in mid-June. So clearly this is an exciting time right now for the game industry, an exciting time in terms of big titles for this week, next week, and the months to come. It is going to be really, really exciting. That's why I'm going to try to continue this series at least on an maybe every other week basis, even though once the football season starts with the stock report, I still want to keep plugged in going on an every other week basis because this is the big time of the year. This is really when big titles come out, drive those sales, drive console sales, see what the Xbox One's going to do with this kind of new console without the Kinect sensor in it. So really intriguing stuff right now, guys. Really, really intriguing to see what's going to be happening in the weeks to come. So again, I thank you guys for tuning in. I thank you guys for your views, for all the subscribers as always. Thank you guys. You guys rock. Again, if you like what you see, give the video a thumbs up. And if you want to, feel free to leave comments on my video games or take on a console or games to come. Please feel free and let me know. I try to check as often as I can with my busy schedule. But I appreciate the discussion that we have, and just thank you guys so much for being a part of that. Thank you. God bless, and tune in again next week for another edition of Plugged In, and hopefully tomorrow another video will be up when I discuss all 32 NFL teams, draft, and free agency breakdown. Thank you guys. God bless.